The 911 call came in while my wife was brushing her teeth, toothpaste still foaming at the corners of her mouth, and the dispatcher said she might need to vacate the property immediately. And I swear for one heartbeat I thought I was still half asleep. But then Rachel spit into the sink, wiped her mouth, and said, "Honey, apparently I'm illegally living in our own house." If I'd known that was only the opening act of the insanity, I would have braced myself. Because the woman who made that call, the HOA president, had no idea she'd just tried to evict the head of our entire state police force. We'd bought the cabin at Lake Pine Estates because Rachel needed a break. A real break, not just a long weekend or a day off she'd spend answering emails. When you run the state police force, you carry more stress than most people could imagine. I saw it every day, the nights where she couldn't sleep, the mornings where she stared at her uniform like it weighed 100 pounds. I wanted her to have someplace quiet, someplace soft, a lake, a porch, trees, silence. That's all we wanted, just some damn peace. But the universe, or more specifically Karen, the self-appointed queen of the pines, had other ideas. The very first day, before we'd even unpacked the groceries, her white Lexus rolled into our driveway like she was pulling up to a kingdom she already owned. She stepped out in a perfume cloud thick enough to stun wildlife, carrying a clipboard like a weapon. Oversized sunglasses, tight smile, spine so stiff she could have been carved from oak. She didn't greet us, didn't wave. She marched straight past us and started circling our cabin, scribbling into her clipboard like she'd been waiting years for someone new to bully. Rachel tried being polite. "Hi there," she said. "Can we help you?" Karen didn't even slow down. "We've had unauthorized activity on this parcel," she said, her tone implying we might have been running an international crime syndicate. "Need to confirm your status. Are you renters?" Rachel put down the paper towels she'd been unloading. "No, we own this place." Karen finally looked up from her precious clipboard. "I don't recognize you." "Well," I said, stepping beside my wife, "we were here last spring. My name's Dean. This is my wife, Rachel." Karen's eyebrows practically lodged themselves in her hairline. "I'm the HOA president," she announced, expecting, I'm not sure, a salute, a bow, maybe a round of applause. "We require formal occupancy notices through the community portal. Did you submit one?" Now let me tell you something about that portal. It was a broken WordPress website built in the Jurassic era with 404 errors on half the pages and a login form that crashed if you sneezed too close to the keyboard. But Karen spoke about it like it was NASA's mission control. "We weren't informed that was required," Rachel said calmly. Karen clicked her pen so aggressively the sound echoed. "Regardless, your name is not on the ownership record." And that's when I knew exactly where this was going. The cabin was purchased under my LLC for tax reasons. My name was on everything, not Rachel's. Not because she wasn't my partner, just paperwork. Bureaucracy. That small detail became a grenade in Karen's hands. She pulled out a paper printed in Comic Sans, and said, "This is a warning. You must vacate until your residency can be verified." Rachel took one look at it, handed it back, and said, "No thanks. I don't take orders from you." Karen looked genuinely offended that the sky didn't darken at her command. From that moment on, she declared war. Pine cones became yard violations. Rachel sitting on the porch became excessive occupancy. A blurry photo of her jogging past a tree became suspicious loitering. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so damn exhausting. And as ridiculous as it all sounded, the truth was, it started wearing on me. Watching my wife, this woman who'd commanded literal SWAT teams, have to deal with a suburban dictator with a clipboard. It grated. Worse, Karen's obsession only got fiercer, more erratic, more personal. 2 days later, Rachel found a formal complaint taped to our mailbox, complete with lipstick seal and all. The unidentified female on premises must vacate within 48 hours. Unidentified female. My wife. My homeowner. My damn partner. By then, I could tell Rachel wasn't just annoyed, she was unsettled. Not scared, not intimidated, but irritated in that quiet, simmering way she had. And she was right to be, because the morning Karen called 911, everything snapped. We were in the kitchen, half awake. Rachel in pajamas slicing an apple. And then the dispatch call came through her phone informing her that someone Karen had reported her as an intruder refusing to leave. I'll never forget the look on the officers' faces when they arrived and realized the trespasser was Commander Merritt, standing in her own kitchen, holding a half-cut apple. They went pale so fast I thought they might faint. Karen hadn't just poked a bear, she'd slapped a dragon. Still, even after the officers apologized 3 times and left, Rachel stared at the door long after it shut. "She's escalating," she whispered. "She won't stop until something burns." I wish she'd been wrong. The next morning, Karen's Lexus stalked past our house again, slow predatory headlights off the way, a hawk watches a mouse hole. Rachel didn't flinch. She just murmured, "She's checking if the police dragged me away last night." Emails started flooding our inbox. Karen CC'd the entire HOA board, accusing Rachel of intimidation, manipulation, and creating an unstable neighborhood environment. The HOA board panicked and scheduled an emergency session. Rachel went alone, telling me to stay home. "Let her think she has the upper hand," she said. "Bullies make mistakes when they think they're winning." Through the thin clubhouse walls I could hear everything. Karen shouting about danger. Greg, the treasurer, mumbling numbers and rules, and then Rachel's voice, calm, sharp, cutting through the nonsense with surgical precision. And yet when Rachel came back to the truck, she looked tired. Not defeated, not shaken, just tired. "They're afraid of her," she said quietly. Too afraid to stop her. That was the first time I felt real fear slip into my stomach. Because if even the people who supposedly governed this place were terrified of Karen's tantrums, what was she capable of? That night someone slipped into our cabin. It wasn't a burglary, nothing was stolen, but a framed photo of us was face down. A drawer left open, the drawer where Rachel kept her off-duty badge. The air felt wrong, violated. Rachel's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. She crossed the line. The next morning, a drone hovered outside our bedroom window, buzzing like mechanical hatred. Rachel didn't react. "She's baiting us," she murmured. "If we give her a reaction, she'll weaponize it." That was the moment my breaking point arrived. Watching my wife, my rock, deal with this relentless, senseless harassment, I felt something inside me fissure. I remember saying, maybe we should leave. Maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe she wins. It hurt to say it. It tasted like defeat. And for a moment, a small, terrifying moment, I wondered if I was right. If we'd stepped into a fight too ugly to win. If Karen's madness was stronger than our patience. But Rachel just looked at me with the softest, saddest eyes and said, "If we walk away, she'll do this to the next couple. And the next. And the next. Someone has to stop her." That was the turning point. Not anger, not revenge, responsibility. Rachel contacted the State Ethics and Law Review Division, submitting footage of the break-in, the drone, the unauthorized emergency key, use everything Karen had done. When 2 black SUVs rolled up the next morning, even I felt the shift. Karen wasn't dealing with an annoyed neighbor anymore. She'd attracted the attention of the people who investigate real corruption. And she reacted exactly how you'd expect. She doubled down. She arrived at our porch with a lawyer, a terrified kid named Stephen, who looked like he'd passed the bar exam on his 6th attempt and regretted his life choices. Karen thrust a cease and desist order at Rachel like it was a divine decree. Rachel let her talk, let Stephen stammer through Karen's lies. Then she said, "Stephen, do you know who I am?" When he realized she was Commander Merritt, the poor guy nearly evaporated. Karen sputtered, denied everything, demanded respect for the HOA chain of command, which would have been hilarious if it wasn't insane. And then Rachel did something brilliant. She held out her hand and said, "The drone controller, now." Karen's face drained of color, but she handed it over. Rachel powered it off with a click that sounded like judgment itself. That was the first real crack in Karen's armor. The next was when a judge called Rachel personally to tell her Karen had filed an unhinged emergency injunction calling Rachel unstable. It was thrown out instantly, but it told us everything we needed to know. Karen wasn't trying to win anymore. She was trying to survive. That kind of desperation is dangerous, and she proved it by attacking our neighbors, the quiet accountant down the road, Vince. She sent fake emails to his clients accusing him of embezzlement. It nearly ruined him. When he came to our porch, shaking, holding the email out to Rachel like a child holding a bad grade, I realized the truth. Karen wasn't just a problem. She was a contagion. Rachel summoned the entire neighborhood to the boat dock that weekend. She didn't rant, didn't shout, didn't dramatize. She just presented the truth calm, clear, heavy. Everything Karen had done to us, everything she'd done to others, the drone, the break-in, the lies, the manipulation, the fear. People cried, people cursed, people apologized for not believing us sooner. And for the first time, Karen's empire cracked. The community voted to dissolve the current HOA board. Every member resigned except Greg. A new charter committee formed. Rachel refused to lead it. She wanted protection, not power. Karen went silent for a time. Too silent. Then a white envelope appeared in our mailbox. Inside was a single line I never left. It was her handwriting, her red ink. Rachel went cold. She checked statewide records that night and founded a new HOA filing 20 minutes away under the name Cassandra R. Keene. Karen's real name was Karen Cassandra Pinebrook. She wasn't leaving. She was rebuilding. Rachel filed a fraud review request, and for the first time the system moved faster than the chaos. The state flagged Karen, froze her filings, suspended her eligibility for any leadership role. Investigators connected her new HOA attempt to her misconduct here. And then one morning the final envelope came not from Karen, from the State Licensing Commission. It declared her permanently barred from any HOA Community Board Neighborhood Committee or enforcement role anywhere in the state. No loopholes, no rebranding, no second kingdom. When Rachel finished reading it, she didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just folded it neatly, placed it in her file drawer, and said quietly, "It's done." And maybe that's the part people don't understand. Victories like this don't feel triumphant. They feel clean, like poison being drained from a wound. Karen didn't lose because we fought harder. She lost because the truth finally had enough. Sometimes the lesson is simple. Stand your ground even when the bully has a clipboard.